Welcome to Keys Open Doors. Today we're breaking down the modular home delivery and installation process. You know, building a modular home is an incredibly efficient way to achieve home ownership, but it's really like a highly coordinated dance. You've got the factory, the transport team, and you, the buyer, all working together. As your real estate guide, I want to walk you through exactly what happens when your home makes that journey from a factory floor to your empty dirt lot and how it finally becomes a finished, move-in ready house. It's an exciting process for sure, but it definitely requires some careful planning and knowing exactly who handles what.
Okay, let's dive into this chronological journey from an empty dirt lot to a completed home. We'll hit prepping your build site, delivery and set day, finishing the exterior, and completing the interior.
First up, prepping your build site. Now, in general, keeping the compliance tone here, it's actually the buyer who's responsible for laying the groundwork long before those modules ever arrive.
So your very first major logistical hurdle, getting the home to your lot. You've got to verify that the route to your site has a minimum overhead clearance of 14 feet. We're talking low-hanging tree branches, power lines, that sort of thing. Plus, you need to ensure the route has a minimum road width of 15 feet, and absolutely crucial here, any bridges along the way must pass a strict 15-ton minimum weight limit. Keep in mind, your house is rolling in on a massive 75-foot tractor trailer. If there's a sharp turn or a weak bridge, well, you need to know about that way in advance so you can coordinate with local traffic officials. Once those big trucks actually make it to your property, they need room to breathe. You generally have to provide two 30 by 60-foot cleared, level staging areas. Your crane contractor needs this space, and it's got to be heavily compacted, undisturbed, and level right next to the foundation to operate safely. A modular home might not literally be the heaviest thing a crane lifts, but its footprint is huge. The crane needs wide, incredibly stable footing to swing those modules into place without any risk of tipping over or, causing costly damage to the structure. And while the site is being cleared, the foundation itself has to be absolutely ready to go. Many buyers will need to ensure that the sill plates, that's the wood framing sitting directly on the concrete foundation, are perfectly level. That's your home's bearing surface. Also, your support posts, like lolly columns for the basement, need to be on site and cut to the exact length required by local code ahead of time. Why? Because the crane crew moves fast, like really fast. They simply cannot wait around for foundational adjustments to be made on the fly. Moving right along to Section 2, Delivery and Set Day. This is the heavy lifting phase. And a quick pro tip, it's highly recommended to arrange delivery a day or two prior to actual set day. When set day arrives, you'll be working with a highly specific team of professionals, the set crew. They strictly handle connecting the home's modules onto your foundation, and this brilliantly illustrates the boundary of their work. They handle the main structural assembly. It's super important for everyday buyers to realize the set crew is not there to do your final carpentry or plumbing or painting. Nope. Their job is simply to safely lift, place, and structurally secure those large boxes that make up your home. Throughout the day, you're going to hear a very specific piece of industry jargon, the marriage wall. This is the interior point where your home's separate sections connect. Imagine two halves of a house coming together, the exact wall where they touch and get bolted together. That's the marriage wall. Understanding this term is absolutely key because so many of your future finishing tasks will revolve around seamlessly hiding this exact connection point. So how does this massive craning process actually work? Well, first, the crew attaches spreader bars to the lifting cables. These spreader bars are non-negotiable. They keep the lifting cables pushed out and away from the house so they don't crush your brand new exterior finish as the tension ramps up. Second, the crane gently lifts the module right off the carrier. And third, crew members down on the ground physically guide that suspended, flying room toward the foundation using long ropes attached to the corners. Setting the module is basically precision engineering. The crew will always place one outside low corner down first, then carefully lower the rest of the unit to sit totally flush on the foundation. Once that first box is set, the second one flies in. Now, before those cables are fully released, the crew grabs heavy-duty ratcheting tools called come-alongs. They use these to physically pull the two modules tight against each other at that marriage wall. Finally, they permanently bolt the floor systems together and lag the support columns. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that even after using heavy machinery to pull these massive structures together, a small gap, up to 1 inch between the connected units at the marriage wall, is completely normal. I've seen aspiring homebuyers totally panic when they see daylight shining between the modules on set day. But hey, don't worry. This small tolerance is entirely expected, and it's going to be completely filled, insulated, and hidden during the interior finishing phase. So the crucial point is knowing exactly where the set crew's job ends and your job as the buyer begins.
The set crew handles unfolding those hinged roof systems, making the roof weathertight and bolting the modules to your foundation. But tasks like caulking the exterior, finishing the siding, installing trim, hooking up the plumbing, those are generally the buyer's responsibility. Once the house is structurally secure and sealed from the rain, the set crew literally packs up and heads home.
Which brings us to Section 3, finishing the exterior. And keeping our compliance hat on, these are jobs that many buyers will need to manage themselves.
At this stage, you've got a house on a foundation, but it's not quite a home yet. First up outside, you've got to ensure the whole thing is completely sealed against the elements. We're talking meticulously caulking all roof vents and plumbing stacks. Boom. Next, you need to install the exterior corner trim boards and finish up the siding right at the gable ends or where the modules meet. And in some cases, building wrap will need to be applied to any surfaces that were left exposed for transportation before you can slap that final siding on. Then you actually have to connect the home to the outside world. Site-specific utility connections are generally the buyer's responsibility. You'll need to run the piping from your home out to your local well or public water system and do the exact same thing for your septic or public sewer lines. Oh, and this is also the perfect time to install gutters, downspouts, and any exterior access points. Stoops, steps, or custom decks that definitely weren't included in the factory build.
Section 4. Completing the interior. Let's move to and see how this builds into making the inside completely livable.
Remember that marriage wall we talked about earlier? Well, concealing that connection is a massive interior finishing step. You or your contractor will need to install drywall at the marriage wall openings, tape it, mud it, and paint it so you can't even tell two separate boxes were joined together. It's like magic when it's done right. You'll also need to splice the floor sheathing across the gap, seam the carpeting, and install all the baseboards and trim molding that cross the center line of the home.
Now, here is a critical piece of practical advice. Yes, the factory tested the plumbing before it left, but the house just bounced down the highway at 60 miles an hour. Transit vibrations can easily loosen factory-installed pipes. Because of this, retesting all pressurized plumbing systems, tightening up threaded connections, and double-checking the hot, cold, and waste lines before you ever turn on the main water supply is an absolute must. You definitely want to prevent a catastrophic flood on day one, right?
Finally, we need to bring the heartbeat of the home to life. You'll be connecting the main electrical panel to your local utility service, pouring the final basement floor, and hooking up mechanicals like your furnace, AC, and water heater. Now, for these critical utility tasks, you should always rely on local licensed professionals. They are going to ensure everything is connected safely and fully complies with your town's specific building codes.
Building a modular home is incredibly rewarding. But, as we've seen, it's not simply dropping a finished house onto a lot and turning the key. It requires project management, serious coordination, and a clear understanding of your responsibilities versus the factory's. So the big question to ask yourself is, are you prepared to manage your modular home completion, or do you need to hire a local general contractor to guide this massive project across the finish line?
Take the time to plan, understand your site, and build out your team of local experts. Keys open doors, helping you unlock your path to homeownership. If this helped, like, comment, and subscribe.